Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Greg. Welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about the Dharma Devatta in Thunder Astrology, Vedic Astrology, which is a form of Vedic Astrology. If anybody's interested in a reading, go to greg.thunderwizard.com, and I'm still offering a 25% discount. So the Dharma Devatta has to do with your unconscious. And if you've been watching Thunder Wizard's videos, any of them, the unconscious is very much a big controller of who we are. It represents the things we're not aware of in our life that affect us, the obstacles in our life, the fears, the self-sabotaging things. We have our subconscious and our conscious mind too, but there's a big portion of our consciousness has to do with the unconscious. One of the things you get in a Thunder Astrology reading is what's called the Dharma Devatta. And maybe 90-95% of the time when I give people mantras, it has to do with their Dharma Devatta. There are three Devatas that I give you, and they have to do with your higher self, your middle self, and your lower self. That's the Ishta Devata, the Palana Devata. The Palana Devata, the Ishta Devata, and the Dharma Devata. And usually the Dharma Devata is the one where I'll give a mantra. But, depending on the chart and what I'm seeing in it, if there's energies that are being more affected in a negative way from your Ishta or Palana Devatas, then I'll give a reading and a mantra according to those Devatas. But for the most part, it always ends up being the Dharma Devata. And that has to do with the unconscious, and that's really the engine that's controlling the car that you're driving. You may be the one that's driving the car, but if that engine's not running good, it's not going to be able to follow your steering, or you press the gas and the brakes, something's not going to work. So that's the unconscious, and it's very challenging, but it's very necessary for our spiritual evolution. So I just wanted to talk about how these different planets, when they're your Dharma Devata, how they support you. This is one portion of how their energies, they support you and help guide you and help you to illuminate that darkness inside yourself and help you to understand it. So the sun, when you get the sun as your Dharma Devata, the sun really, it straight up represents your soul. It's the center of the solar system, but it really represents who you really are when you're not in a body, when you're just pure energy. So really the sun really wants to give you that fire of the sun. It wants to illuminate that unconscious within you to yourself, to your conscious self. And it wants to burn up all of those fears, all of those things that are blocking you. That's the way it wants to help. It wants to give you that courage to light up the darkness, and burn it up, get it out. That's what the sun, one of the things sun does. So we'll go over to the moon. The moon, moon is like the opposite of the sun. The moon is water. Sun is the fire. Moon is the water. Moon is, it's more of a sensitive, emotional, kind of a motherly, nurturing kind of an energy. So the moon really gives you that support to where when you're looking inside yourself and you start feeling these fears and these insecurities, and especially when you feel things like anger, you're pissed off about your things that happen to you, and you're pissed off at yourself about how you react to things or how you should have reacted to things. Whatever kind of negative emotions you have, when you're feeling those and you're looking inside yourself, the moon here is going to be accepting of whatever kind of emotions you're putting out, because the moon is the motherly energy. The mother loves the child no matter what. No matter how negative the child has been, the mother will always be there to give support, to give a hug, to let the child cry. Let the child be angry. Let the child say, "I hate you," stuff like that. The moon is always going to be right there, giving support, giving you cradling love, So that's one of the nature of the moon. When we get Jupiter here, Jupiter is a large planet. Jupiter is really that that highest form of spirituality that we can attain in these physical bodies. So Jupiter here is really giving that super strong, positive, healing kind of an energy. Jupiter is about wisdom. Jupiter is about teaching you in a positive way. When we're looking at the higher aspect of Jupiter, it teaches in that positive, healing kind of a way. So it gives you that positive encouragement to really look inside yourself and find that wisdom, to understand why you act this way in this certain situation, why you do this, and why do you think like this, and it really wants to take you to that higher level, to where you are able to share with other people, give that kind of teacherly that teaching kind of advice to other people to help them, to overcome their negative stuff too, their negative unconscious. So then we go over to Mercury. So Mercury, Mercury has to do with communication. Mercury is seen as the messenger between you and the gods, the messenger between that higher conscious energy that gets sent to your lower consciousness, and your lower consciousness brings it to your everyday consciousness. So that's Mercury is that messenger. Mercury is kind of seen as like the birds that fly in the air. That air energy. They're always, they're hovering in between us and the higher consciousness. So Mercury really wants to give you that knowledge. It wants to give you that support from the gods, from that universal energy. It wants to bring it in. It wants you to be able to look at it and analyze it. And not the higher aspect of Mercury is to not get overly involved in intellect. You don't want to get too deeply trying to figure it out with words and words and words, trying to get in there too much. Mercury wants to really help you to align your intellect with your heart, to where you can understand these things, but you don't have to get too deep into words, being too over analytical about things. That's the higher aspect of Mercury. So then we get Rahu. So Rahu can be really very challenging, Dharma Devatta, because Rahu represents your materialistic desires in this world, in this life. It really represents addictions, obsessions, things you get really obsessed on. Whatever house Rahu sits in, it's pointing to your obsessions. And it's pointing to karma too. And so the higher aspect of Rahu really wants to stop you from drowning in materialistic desires. It really wants you to attain those physical desires, but it doesn't want you to get obsessed with them. When you're first dealing with Rahu, the whole thing is that trickster vibe is going on. Rahu is encouraging you to take those drugs. Keep on drinking, go out and stay up all night. Lose sleep. Then you wake up the next days, or things start adding up, and you're really feeling exhausted and burned out. And that's when Rahu is kind of trying to teach you. Like see what happens. See what happens when you do all this stuff. Is it helping you? So no matter how many times you have to go through this, Rahu is always there, trying to teach you, trying to stop you from drowning in the material world and fulfilling your desires at the same time. He wants to remove those unhealthy, selfish motivations, And, on that higher aspect, Rahu wants to bring people together too. It's kind of like Jupiter. Wants you to share that wisdom with people when you do understand how to look into the darkness of yourself and what have you learned. By doing that, you overcome obstacles. And Rahu is about shortcuts too. So Rahu can really help you to, pick it up. It can really help you to overcome that stuff really quick. It's challenging though. It is challenging at the same time though, because he represents those materialistic desires. But he can help you to overcome that stuff. Really good. Then we go over to Venus. Venus. So Venus is all about overcoming like vengeance, the vengeful heart. Venus is about relationships, especially romantic relationships. It's all about the physical pleasures, and in relationships, especially in the beginning, we start getting into relationships. We get our hearts hurt. Things happen. People cheat. People lie. Whatever goes on. And that can develop that, especially in the beginning of our lives as teenagers. We start developing those vengeful kind of attitudes. Where we want to pay back people. If we don't pay them back, we're just holding in anger inside of our hearts. And we're not letting it go, and we're getting really hurt on that emotional level, on a deep emotional level. We're burying that stuff in our unconscious, and we're kind of seeing all experiential relationships as, they're just always bad. This just always happens like this. You start getting into that victim mentality. That's the negative side of Venus. But Venus really here wants you to overcome those vengeful kind of feelings. It wants you to look inside yourself and see that stuff. When it's your Dharma Devatta, it might have to do with a lot of relationship kind of problems. But really, it's vengeance in any kind of aspect in your life. It could be business, family, friends, whatever, whatever is going on, Even pets, taking abuse out on pets, taking out your anger on them. It can be things like that. But, yeah, so Venus really wants to purify your heart, really wants to take you to that next level where you overcome vengeance. And now you're really enjoying your senses, all the senses that we have in the physical body. We're really using them in a healthy way. So there's that attaining balance, overcoming that imbalance that comes from the unconscious. That's Venus. So then we got Ketu. Ketu is another challenging one, like Rahu. It's a malefic planet. Ketu, though, the really higher aspect of Ketu is all about this, it's really deep spirituality. Ketu doesn't have a head. Ketu doesn't think. Ketu is all about the other dimensions. Ketu is here with you in this life, but Ketu is giving you that access to the spiritual dimensions. And one of the ways of, accessing those is to overcome the unconscious, getting really deep. So Ketu is going to really bring detachment in looking into the darkness in yourself. Ketu can really help you to really deal with those emotions that start coming up when you're dealing with your unconscious. It can give you that detached mode where you're looking at things and analyzing things really, really, clearly. You're not letting those emotions get in the way. You're overcoming that vengeful attitude. You're overcoming those angers, those fears. It's looking at all of that stuff and saying, yeah, this stuff happens, but these are the only things that happen in a physical body. You can, when you're not in the body, you're not going to feel these kind of things. You're going to be so free and light. But when you're in the bodies, this is when these karmas start coming around again. The Rahu, Ketu, they're all about those karmas and overcoming them. So yeah, Ketu can bring that deep spirituality, that mystical kind of energy, and that detachment to look inside yourself. So Saturn is another one. Saturn is all about that karma too. Saturn is another difficult one, but those difficult planets are the most rewarding. They really are the liberators. Saturn, is all about karma in this life, in all lives. Saturn is always there, making sure that you've learned those lessons before you can reach those next levels of consciousness, before you can move on from a human incarnation. Ketu is that way too. But Saturn really has that good grip on you. It has that grip on you. It really does want you to look at yourself, to go deep inside yourself. It wants you to overcome the negative aspects of Saturn, which is fear, doubt, impatience, disorganization. A disorganized unconscious can really bring a scattered mentality. When you start bringing in the positive aspects of Saturn, you bring about that patience, you bring about that stability, that strength, that willingness to go inside of yourself and surrender to the vibrations of Saturn that are helping you to look inside yourself. So that's what Saturn's. Saturn's that judge. He wants to really help you to overcome your fear. But if you're running away from it, then he holds on to you, and he makes you feel that fear. And you want to find that solution. Saturn's always there to help you to liberate that. So then we got Mars. So Mars is very, it's all about the courage. It's all about that fearlessness. Mars really wants to help you to get into the unconscious and go in there, with your shoulders up and your chin up high, and, it wants you to go in there as a warrior and go in there and destroy. Well, he wants you to look at that unconsciousness, but he wants you to destroy it. He wants you to rip it out, get it out of there. You don't need that crap. Saturn is very, very protective of you. Saturn wants you to attain this higher spirituality in that warrior kind of way. He wants to get it out of you. He wants to give you that fearlessness. He wants to destroy those blockages that are in you. And that higher aspect of, once you start doing that, Mars is now being that protector of your vulnerability, that those spiritual sides of you. Saturn here is like, now he's protecting you. He's giving you that energy, that courage to attract the proper people in your life once you start overcoming those obstacles. So he's a protector of your spirituality. And that's the 9 planets and the way they support you in your Dharma Devatta. So if anybody's interested in getting a Thunder Astrology reading and finding out what your Dharma Devatta is, just go to greg.thunderwizard.com, and I'm still offering that 25% off. So guys, have a good one. Peace.